criminal organizations that are targeting companies all around the world with intellectual property. And that's happening for a multitude, whether it's for them to profit from it, or to try to look to sell it to somebody else, or for them to look to exploit that information themselves. You know, when you look at the attack or the hack that happened against the UConnect system, it was very challenging, but it was also in the same token, the only way it could have happened was them having that insider knowledge and them actually working hard and diligently on working with it. But then also understanding that it takes that automotive industry to also work together with law enforcement, the intelligence community, and the public out there to really get them to understand what some of the vulnerabilities are that they're seeing. And there are a lot of information.
Okay, Jim, any thoughts?
Yeah, what we're seeing from the legal perspective is more class action activity. Some of you may be aware there's a class action pending out in California, the K case, and there were a number of OEMs that were listed as defendants. Very recently, in the last few weeks, the court actually granted the defendant's motion to dismiss the claims against them, alleging that, plaintiffs were alleging, was that the OEMs knew of these potential issues and ignored them, and as a result, the plaintiffs were damaged. Very significant case, and the last time we spoke, it was still, those claims were still pending. And what the court is saying is that you have to, as the plaintiffs, need to be able to show an injury in fact. You need to show that there's imminent or actual damage or harm. And what the court is saying, and did say, in dismissing those claims, is that we're not there yet. But the court made some very interesting comments and said that we're very close. And if the plaintiffs could show that there was an imminent threat of something happening, the court would let that case stand. So I think what we're going to start to see are these class actions continue to go further down the road and not be dismissed as quickly. And there's another case that we're watching out of the 7th Circuit, related in that it's a class action involving data. It's the Neiman Marcus case. And in that case, the plaintiffs had alleged that they were harmed in the future, that they would suffer damage in the future as a result of credit card theft. And this is the first case where the court has said, you know, that's enough. We're gonna let that case go forward. So obviously we're watching that very closely, because if that case sticks, goes up through the Supreme Court, and the court allows those claims to stand, it's gonna open the door for class action litigation across the country in all industries.
Okay, I'll kind of amend the question a little bit. Anuja, talk to me a little bit about what the car companies are facing and what they're going to have to do and what they are doing to cope with this problem.
So as security practitioners, we looked at the Wired article attack and several others that have happened in the last 2 years. And I have to agree, it is by their own admission and ours that it was a very sophisticated attack. Sophisticated in the sense it required a lot of preparation, a lot of knowledge from various different disciplines, not just one area. So they admitted they spent a lot of time figuring this out. So bottom line is it easy to do something like this? No. Is it possible? Yes. The real changing moment in time came because this attack was remote. So nobody physically ever touched the vehicle in order to take control of the vehicle, and that's a turning point. And the auto industry absolutely understands this very, very clearly. I mean, they very clearly understood for a couple of years now that there are these, from petty to sophisticated threats, to try to carjack a car and try to control the fun and pleasure, and now you can do this without touching the vehicle. So it completely changed the landscape. The auto industry actually went into overdrive mode, and before they were doing efforts, but you couldn't publicly see it, touch it, feel it. But now everybody's a little more conscious, and they're openly talking about it. They're talking about efforts they're doing. Almost every major automaker today has changed their corporate structure to now have a cybersecurity line discipline in there. You have a chief cybersecurity officer. They're looking directly at their products. They're hiring cybersecurity engineers. NHTSA is taking a proactive role in trying to say, how can we build standards, or how can we build testing metrics that can measure whether we're doing this right or wrong. And so I think the whole industry, including automakers, tier ones, everybody has collectively taken this in the right spirit.
Okay, Elena, let's hear from you on this now. Is the auto industry getting this and getting it right, do you think?
I think they're getting it. So where we're seeing the automotive industry really focusing is they're becoming more proactive and reactive. And they're beginning to say, let's take a look at this. Let's make sure that we have the trained and qualified workforce to be able to identify where this could potentially happen. And let's be clear, automotives are very complex systems. There are millions of lines of code. And so this is something that they're very aware of and that they're taking seriously and becoming more proactive.
Okay. One of the things that strikes me about all of this is that for those of us who drive a car, who cover the industry, we know that this is gargantuan in terms of a problem. And the largest question is sort of a doomsday scenario. What might that look like, and what needs to be done to prevent, overarching disaster, not only for the car, your car, but also the car companies? So, Elena, why don't you start?
Well, if we really look at what's occurred already, it was in a very controlled environment. This was something that happened not in the wild, not where people are in these vehicles. And so we see that it could become disastrous. But the way to prevent this is for us to really start training people on what to look for. Not only internally to the workforce, but also consumers. What can you expect? And when does this really turn into a problem? Not just suspecting that something is going on, but being aware of what should occur and what can occur, and then being able to know what to do if it does occur.
Mm-hmm. And who handles that? How do we get to that level? And that's a tall order, isn't it?
I think it's going to take all of us. It's going to take the organizations that are established right now that are creating the standards. It's going to be the people that are aligning together to be able to share information, to be preventative in this, and it's going to be the job of the companies as well to internally take control of their workforce, their messaging, and what they're trying to achieve, but also to get the message out to their consumers, because an educated consumer is a better consumer.
As far as the ways to be, as a consumer, it's putting that trust and faith in those automotive companies and those tier 1 suppliers and automotive companies that they did the right thing, that they are doing the right thing by